Hola, bienvenidos y muchas gracias por estar aquí y interesarse en el tema de evolucionar nuestra cultura de muerte. Y estamos aquí hoy con el director de los últimos días extáticos, Scott Kirschenbaum.
Sí,
Bien,
sí. Hola, Wilka. Me da mucho gusto estar aquí contigo y conversar. Y,
igualmente. Estamos muy emocionados de tener la oportunidad de trabajar con Scott y su equipo para difundir el mensaje de este documental tan bello, tan conmovedor y tan importante en estos tiempos. Y vamos a hablar con Scott en inglés, que él está practicando su español, pero para poder entendernos mejor, we're going to speak in English. This way it makes it a little easier. Entonces, Scott, it has been an honor so far and a great joy to meet you, to work with you and your team, to get to know very deeply this film and everything that it brings to the table for conversations about death, about dying, about grief, about loss, and about all of that that is contained and that really is of the community, belongs to the community, and therefore is best held in community.
mm, mm. Sí.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you so much, Wilka. This is our first experience working with an organization outside the United States. So it's a thrill and an honor to work with the Elisabeth Kübler-Ross Foundation in Mexico, because I think a lot of us have admired the foundation and its work for years and admired you and your work. And so this is really a chance to see how this film can engage with audiences and communities and other cultures.
Yes, and something that has been so meaningful to us has been going on this journey together, right? Which started with several conversations about how do we, build the bridges and make the connections to make this accessible because it is relevant to all of us, regardless of culture, regardless of tradition, regardless of, where we are coming from as humans. We are all going to die. We all suffer losses, and we all have a lot to rescue from our traditions and also new ways to bring humanity and dignity into all of these processes.
Absolutely. And I think one part of this collaboration that's particularly unique, there aren't that many death films out in the world, and there certainly aren't that many that are looking at the layers of consciousness for someone during those last weeks. And
Mm-hmm.
so with your organization and your focus on the grief piece and loss and providing companionship to people, we're getting more of a sense of, yes, here's a film, and also how can this film become a teaching tool? How can this film become a way for people to open up about a topic that is otherwise very taboo in our society?
Yes, I mean, and this is clearly a very powerful opportunity, and it is a privilege that we have this to work with. And so it's been really wonderful so far to be sharing this material. I mean, even the work of translating and creating subtitles and talking about what is the most sensitive and considerate and respectful ways to navigate language and all of this to be able to make this happen, right? But the need is very palpable. And I think as a collective, we are so much more ready and connected to the need for the conversations.
Yeah, in a way, this feels like an experiment, a sociological experiment in how to watch a film. And I have not gone to be present for the screenings that you all have been doing. Hopefully we'll get out there in the spring for your conference or at some other point in time. In a way, it's just a real opportunity to approach this without any expectations or without any dogma, and to more say, we are opening up our hearts to what might be a response that you will have to this film. And it could be that it brings up so much grief and pain and hurt from losing a loved one and not getting to say goodbye, or not having the, sort of conditions for that experience to be connected and, emotionally safe. And so I think in a way, our film team is going to learn as much from the research that you all do and the connections that you all make as hopefully you are going to from going out with the film. That's just what makes this partnership really rewarding for us.
Yes, same here. And I think that you said, this is about learning how to watch a film, or another way of relating to this medium. The other thing about it, and I think the essential part of it, is how we do this in community.
Yes.
Right? Because we are calling a community who is called already to this work, or at least to this perspective, or to connecting more with their own mortality, whatever it is, and then to together navigate the journey of the film and everything that it could bring up, and then all of the different ways in which we process that together. And so not only are we talking about community death care, not only are we talking about holding space for dying in community, but we're also talking about how do we hold our humanity together in community, right? Absolutely. And all of these things. And it is clearly so necessary, because so far, in the introduction, we see some people who are eager already and connected to that longing that I think is a very natural instinct for all of us. But toward the end, how everybody is really wishing to contribute to the conversation and connecting with deeper wisdom they didn't even know they had.
I think you just touched on something so essential here. With a typical movie, you might go to the movie theater, you might watch it on your computer, and then you're done. You might check your phone, you might go have something to eat. With the experience that you all are providing your audiences, you're giving them access to deeper wisdom with your team of qualified facilitators. And what you're seeing, what I'm hearing, are these remarkable conversations for people that maybe have never, ever talked about this subject with strangers before. So that's pretty profound.
Yes. And, we would think that all of these different emotions are going to be stirred up, and memories and fears and all this stuff, which they are. But already the setup from the beginning is one of containment and not being alone in it. Mm-hmm. Therefore, as we navigate through it, people are already more comfortable, more willing to be open and vulnerable. And then toward the end, they discover they have something to contribute to this, which I think is great. It's so empowering, because then they say, actually, I've had this experience and it taught me this. And then somebody else then is empowered to share something about their own. And if somebody's talking about their fear, then someone else can also talk about their fear. And it's a lot more inspiring and motivational, let's say. People all walk away uplifted, even when the topics are hard, because they feel like they're no longer alone.
Absolutely. I mean, and that's the difference of presenting a movie in this manner. As you've spoken about in our prior conversations, your group, your organization is providing a bridge for these kinds of conversations. And hopefully audiences can understand, we know the power of film. We understand the hope that this film will resonate with audiences. And that's just half of this. That's only half of this experience. We want them to finish the movie, be ready to have these conversations, and be ready to take some of these learnings back to their communities, back to their families, back to their friends, to share this vision. It's arguably, if I may say, it feels like revolutionary work, because a lot of people will say, if you're willing to look in death and dying, you're willing to live more fully.
Totally. It is a revolution, Scott. It totally is. And that's how I see it and feel it. You know, we are beginning something. Maybe some of what we've forgotten that we are recuperating, but there is something else that we have now in this point in time and our evolution as a species that is taking us to another level. And
Yes.
for me personally, for my team and my community, and I feel the same, like probably you're in the same boat, is that particularly talking about losses and grief and death and dying is the sure pathway because it transcends so much. You know, it's beyond difference. It is a human language that connects us.
I mean, and to say, I'm living proof of this. I was scared of death before working on this film. I would say, I've said to people, I was scared to death of death my entire life before working with this film, before going bedside, before being around death doulas, before having some of these conversations. It's so humbling. I had no clue what was possible once I started to look in this direction. And now I see, you know, there's just a lot, you know, I've never grieved so much in my life. I've never taken such a heart-focused approach to art making. This changes everything. It's a new paradigm.
Yes.
It's really, I had no clue that there were people out there doing this work all over the world. And now it's thrilling to think about what's possible.
Exactly. Yes. And so, you know, talk about a revolution, because as I keep going deeper with this work, I've been doing this for 8 years in an intentional, conscious way, but I think I've been doing this my whole life. The more I see all of the problems that we face as humanity, you know, as cultures, as countries, and all of that, the more I see at the foundation our disconnection with our nature that includes our dying as a big part of the problem. And even more, I start to, I mean, this might sound a little ridiculous, but it almost feels like a conspiracy against our empowerment that we have been conditioned to be afraid of our own nature through our fear of death and dying. And so when we connect with that, then that dissipates, because it feels like it's a form of, I mean, this is very bizarre, but it feels like a form of control to keep us disconnected from that complete part of our nature and who we are and all of that. And from the learning that being close to dying can bring us, and the capacity of love and connection that we can only experience when we are closer to death. So when we start to do more of that, then something else begins to happen, this new paradigm that you're talking about.
Yeah, and I think that's what this film needs. That's the gift for us of getting to work with someone who I can say is, you know, at least in my understanding, a visionary such as yourself, in putting together this larger framework, this larger conversation that we are not having. And this film needs more people like you who can get communities together to explore these uncomfortable spaces that are also the most riveting spaces if you're willing to sit there and stay there and meditate there and love from there. Yes. So it's really a treat. And we're just trying to grow in our understanding of how much we can make people feel comfortable having this discourse. It doesn't need to be fear-mongering. It could just be like, hey, you know what's actually the most loving experience you can have? Watching a human being die on their own terms, surrounded by people who love that dying person, even though that person's not their family. That's companion par excellence.
Yes, and it's such a model of what is our true human potential, right? When we discover that we can do this, we can be with strangers and be moved and inspired by someone else is dying in their own terms. And the love and the care and the kindness and the, patience and all of these things that we know we are capable of, but we didn't know how far or how deep we could go with that. I kind of lost my train of thought, but it's that this means that we're capable of this all the time, but because we don't give ourselves the opportunity to experience it, then we don't think it's possible. Yes. But it is very much so. And this film demonstrates it. And the experience around the film demonstrates it as well.
That's why the hope for us is people see this movie, and instead of saying, I'm still scared of death, they might say Ethan's mantra, I'm embodied, I'm empowered, I'm ecstatic. We want them leaving this theater saying, I just watched a death film and I'm more alive, more alive than ever before. Yes. That's the secret sauce of this film, hopefully.
Yes, so far that's been the case every time. And so we will have more to talk about, Scott, because we are just beginning on this exploration together, and we will see how it goes in the next several screenings that we have, and we will check in again and see how far we can go.
Sounds amazing. Muchas gracias, Wilka.
Muchas gracias, Scott.